To Catch a Thief is a 1955 romantic thriller film that was done by Alfred Hitchcock. It stars Cary Grant and Grace Kelly. When jewelries of millionaires are stolen on the French Riviera, the former thief John Roby, also known as the Cat, is the prime suspect to the police. John convinces the Lloyd's of London insurance agent H. Hewson that a copycat is committing all of these burglaries, and he offers to chase the thief to prove his innocence. During this time, he befriends the wealthy American widow, Jessie Stevens, and her spoiled daughter, Francie. But when her jewels are stolen too, John must find the real thief. The film starts out in a typical Hitchcock way. As the beginning credits roll, the camera focuses on a window front of a travel service that advertises dream vacations to France. When the titles are finished, the camera tracks over to a poster on the right side that reads, "If you love life, you'll love France." But in the very next instant, there's a close-up of a middle-aged woman with her face coated in cold cream, shrieking as she notices her empty jewelry case in her French Riviera hotel room. She screams out that my jewels have been stolen, I've been robbed. She then runs off to her balcony overlooking the Mediterranean and yells for the police. To emphasize the motif of a stealthy, prowling jewel thief, or a cat burglar that has committed this crime, a black cat crosses a slatted, tiled roof during the nighttime. Then, inside a room, a black-gloved hand removes a pile of valuable jewels. And then the black cat crosses back over the roof. This short montage continues with another woman screaming, "My diamonds, they're gone," and another traversing of the roof by the black cat. Although the movie is a polished caper that contains the typical amount of mystery and suspense as you would normally expect, it's fairly light-weighted and lacks some of the profound psychological depth that many of Hitchcock's other works contained. It's filmed in widescreen VistaVision, and its leisurely tone is decidedly European. It's loaded with witty, risque, and naughty double entendres in its dialogue. And the film's title, To Catch a Thief, was based upon the ancient proverb, "Set a thief to catch a thief." This was Cary Grant's third film for Hitchcock, and it was Grace Kelly's third and final film also for the famous director. The movie was shot primarily at Paramount Studios in Hollywood. There were some location shooting in France as well on the Mediterranean coast. Of all the films that Alfred Hitchcock did for Paramount Pictures, this is the only one that the studio retained the rights to. All of the other films, including Rear Window, Vertigo, and Psycho, were sold back to the director and later sold to his daughter, Patricia, 3 years after his passing. Hitchcock really only wanted to make the film, it's said, because he wanted a vacation in France. Hitchcock wanted to shoot some of the chase scenes with a helicopter, which required quite a bit of ingenuity at that time, as camera mounts didn't exist for this purpose. Using a Sikorsky helicopter with the side door removed, a camera jerry-rigged with ropes, wires, and cables was set up in this doorway, and is kind of the precursor to all of the effect shots that you see from helicopters after this film. Now, Cary Grant wasn't even supposed to be in the film. He had announced his retirement from acting in February of 1953, stating that since there was a rise of method actors like Marlon Brando, most people were not interested in seeing actors like him. But Hitchcock lured him out of retirement to make this movie, and he went on to continue acting for 11 more years after this film was done. As Hitchcock always does in his films, he introduces naughty lines that had double meanings. In the picnic scene, when Francie asks John, "Do you want a leg or a breast?" This is a prime example, and he responds, "You make the choice." Hitchcock was notorious for introducing suggestive dialogue End of scenes. While working on the film in the French Riviera, Grace Kelly met Prince Rainier of Monaco. It wasn't love at first sight for Kelly, but the prince initiated a long correspondence with her, which led to marriage in 1956. Afterward, she became Princess Grace of Monaco and retired from acting altogether. On September 13, 1982, she suffered a cerebral vascular accident while driving in France with her daughter, Princess Stephanie. She missed a sharp turn and the car dove off a 120-foot cliff. Her daughter sustained only minor injuries, but Grace Kelly suffered a second vascular accident and never regained consciousness at all. For many years, rumors persisted that the road on which Kelly was driving was the same road as the famous chase scene in this film. But Grace Kelly's son categorically denies this and says that these weren't even the same road or anywhere near the same spot that the crash occurred on. Hitchcock is notorious for leaving little Easter eggs that imply something odd. One of these are the two references in this film that Hitchcock has for his dislike of runny egg yolks. At the beginning, when the restaurant's kitchen staff and his fellow ex-cons and comrades from the French Resistance believe Cary Grant to be responsible for the recent thefts, someone throws a raw egg at him, and it hits the glass and splatters everywhere. One of them also offers him a saucer of milk, referring to his former nickname, the Cat. Later in the movie, someone puts out a cigarette in a sunny-side-up egg yolk. There's a completely coincidental bit of humor that can be found in the scene on the bus where Roby looks to his right and sees a cage full of birds on the seat beside him. Then he looks the other way and sees Alfred Hitchcock sitting to his left. 8 years later came the release of Hitchcock's The Birds in 1963. Cary Grant is basically silent at the beginning of the movie. He only speaks one line, and he doesn't speak his second line until 14 minutes in. Grace Kelly doesn't speak until 32 minutes in. When everyone is reading the newspaper, and Miss Stevens says, "Everyone in Philadelphia reads the bulletin," it's a reference to a long-running ad campaign for that newspaper. The ads were cartoons that showed something extraordinary going on in a lighthearted vein, but no one sees it because they are all holding the newspapers up in front of them. There is always one person who is not reading the bulletin and frantically trying to get the attention of all the other people. The caption was always the same. Nearly everyone in Philadelphia reads the bulletin. And it's also thought that this was included in there because Grace Kelly was a native of Philadelphia. In the scene where Grace Kelly kisses Cary Grant outside her hotel room, number 623, and demurely closes the door behind her, Hitchcock has often stated that this was his way of showing how sexy Grace Kelly was without trying to be. She was considered one of the sexiest girls alive during the 1950s, and she didn't even know it. But Hitchcock put this scene in the film specifically to pay homage to her extraordinary beauty and the fact that she didn't try to flaunt it. I think this movie was ideal for its romantic leads. And who doesn't like anything that Hitchcock does? You stick Cary Grant and Grace Kelly into the mix and some witty dialogue, you've got a hit in my book. The reviews were pretty mixed, though. Not everybody liked this film. Take a look back at this romantic Hitchcock film and see what your take is on it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.